Welcome to Shadow Crown Book Club with Sabeena and Millie. Unfortunately, Sabeena is not here for this video, so you have me, Millie. Today I'm doing a book review on, let me get it, on Daydream by Hannah Grace. I am so excited to talk about this book. I read the first two in the Maple Hill series, and that is Icebreaker, and then you have Wildfire. I read both of these last year in 2024, and I absolutely loved it. And whenever Daydream came out in 2024, I bought it, was meaning to read it, never did. So we're starting off with 2025, reading it. Obviously, I have to start with a hockey romance because if you know by now, I love hockey romances. So this is a perfect one to start with because I just love the other two. And this one did not disappoint. It is a slow burn. I feel like there was less spice than it was in the first two books, but I still absolutely loved it. So let's start off with a no spoiler section. So I'm going to give you my honest review, and yeah, so let's start with the no spoilers. This video, this podcast, this book is an adult romance. So 18 or older, rated R, podcast, video, book. So if you are not of age, do not read this book. Do not watch this podcast. Do not watch this video. I absolutely love this book. I thought it was going to be a little bit more spicy because of the other two. I still thought it was a great book. This book follows Hallie and Henry, and if you know who Henry is from the first two books, Henry is a hockey player, and he is best friends with the female main character from the first book, Icebreaker, Anastasia. And Hallie is actually acquaintance, kind of friends with the female main character in the second book, Wildfire. So this is their love story. Hallie and Henry go to the same college, Maple Hill, and she is an aspiring writer, and obviously Henry is a hockey player, but he is an artist. And you can read all of that in the back of the book, the blurb. I loved the concept of the book, writer and an artist. Loved it. I gave this book a 5-star. So if you want to read a cutesy little slow burn hockey romance, this is definitely the book for you. Now, let's get into some spoilers. If you have not read the book, leave. Read the book, come back. I'll be here when you're ready. Okay, now with that out of the way. So this book starts off with Hallie, and she is actually at home with her current boyfriend, and he actually is a hockey player for another team in San Diego, and this is in California, based in California. And her boyfriend is currently breaking up with her, and she is questioning why she's not sad about it, and she's kind of happy in a way that he wants to break up. And she realizes that she's never been in love with him. He gets very angry that she is not so upset and heartbroken. And honestly, he's a jerk. From the get-go, he's a jerk. They are best friends from childhood, and they started dating recently, and for like a year. And her parents and his parents are best friends, and they were kind of pushing for them to be together once they like realized that they had something for each other. So since they broke up, they decide that she is not going to go back home for Thanksgiving, and he is really just being a complete asshole and basically saying like she does not have friends, that her friends were his friends, and that they're not hers. And so she loses her boyfriend, which she's not sad about. She loses her best friend because he was her best friend. And then she loses all of her friends because they were his friends. And she realizes that they weren't really her friends and that honestly they were assholes to her too. All she wanted was a group of girlfriends just to hang out and have a good time. And the friends that she had that were girls were always rude and like excluding her. So, since she's had this boyfriend, she would have to go to his school for his hockey games. So, she rearranged her whole schedule to accommodate his schedule for hockey. So, now that they've broken up, she decides to restart a book club in a different bookstore, and she decides to get a job. And at this job at a hotel, she meets Cammy. And Cammy, which is Campbell, if I'm not mistaken, she is a girl at her college that changed her major a couple times, so she hasn't graduated, so she's a little bit older, and they become friends. And Cammy invited her to a party, and she's like so down to go, just because she's never been to a party, like an actual like college party at her college. So she decides to go. Before that, we have Henry's POV chapter, and this is a dual POV book. And Henry is going with Aurora, which is the girl from the second book, Wildfire, going to a bookstore so he can get some books to learn how to be a leader, because he is now the team captain and he does not want to be a team captain that is stressing him out. So he decides to go get some books on leadership. Well, at the bookstore, Aurora was supposed to go to book club, but this first book club was more like a welcome, and Aurora didn't want to go to that one because she wasn't really interested in the book that they chose. So Henry gets a couple books and he goes and steals some cookies that are just out on the table. And Hallie sees him, and they start talking. He basically invites her to a party, and he's like saying, "Oh, we're friends," and yada yada. Fast forward to the party, and Hallie is at the party with her friends, Cammy and Cammy's roommates, and they're playing games. So like it's basically like a truth or dare, but mostly just dares. And she's dared to go get somebody's number. Well, she is running trying to find somebody's number first before Cammy, and she sees Henry, and she's about to go talk to him, go get his number because they didn't exchange numbers at the bookstore. So she's going over there, and she sees that he is actually talking to somebody, and she's like, "Oh, that's probably his girlfriend. Like, he's hot, so of course he has a girlfriend." And she ends up just talking to this random guy and getting his number. She goes back to her friends, and her friends were like, "Hey, do you like toxic men?" And she's like, no, I don't think so. And he was like, "Okay," and then deletes the guy's number because apparently he's so toxic. And if I'm not mistaken, he is in either the first or second book. I'm pretty sure he's in the first book, and that's how you know like he's toxic. Well, fast forward, and Henry is talking to his coach because he is failing a class. And his coach was like, figure it out. If you don't pass, you're off the team. Like, You just got to figure it out. You didn't leave the class in time, so tough luck. And he and Hallie, I'm not sure if it's before or after, she highlighted a few of his books, his leadership books, because he mentioned he's not very good with retaining information that is kind of boring. And he mentions to her about his class that he's in with this professor, and she loves the professor. And they end up talking again at book club, which he's not there for book club, but he came to talk to her. And steal the cookies, of course, because her cookies were amazing. And he asked her if she could help him with the class. And she's so down for it. She doesn't mind helping. And what he doesn't know about Hallie is that she puts everybody before herself. And that is so relatable. She considers herself as the family manager. She helps her sisters with school, her mom with her sisters. She plans vacations. She really does everything for the family. And she helps friends when she doesn't have time. She has a job and now she runs this books club. And she is like, yeah, like, sure, I can help you. And what he doesn't know is that she doesn't have time. And she will prioritize everybody except for herself. Well, fast forward some more, and they are, helping each other, or she's helping him with class and stuff, and he's like doing great. And his coach talks to him. I was like, hey, like, did you figure it out? He's like, oh yeah, I figured it out. I have this friend and she's gonna help me. Or like, she's been helping me. And the coach was like, well, are you paying her? Like, is there tutor? He was like, oh no, it's just a friend. Like, she was fine with helping me. And the coach was like, well, don't be taking advantage of her. Like, are you doing anything for her? Are you paying her? Like, doing anything? And he was like, no. Well, then he thinks about it and he has like anxiety. He goes to her. I was like, hey, do you think I'm taking advantage of you? And she was like, no, like, I want to help. And he was like, well, how about this? I help you, and then since you're helping me. What she ends up wanting is experiences. She is a virgin. She doesn't want to have sex, but she wants dates because her ex-boyfriend never took her out on dates. She wants dates. She wants just experiences that she's never had because she cannot write without experiences. And the reason why she wants experiences is because she's trying to write a book. And she's trying to write a book to win a contest so she can go to the summer program for writing. And she's so excited, but she has not prioritized herself to write. So they decide to make a rule book. And so they have 4 or 5 rules with she cannot be embarrassed, stuff like that. And one of the rules is they can't fall in love with each other. And then another rule is he can't break her heart. So they have this platonic friendship, love, and he's taking her on dates and all of this stuff. So they realize they're falling in love with each other, but Hallie does not want a boyfriend. And Henry doesn't care about labels. And he's like so fine with, if they don't want a label, like whatever. And throughout this time, Henry is spending the night with her, just like they're just having a good time. And nothing has happened. And he's just spending the night. They stay up too late working on her experiences or his schoolwork. And then one day she's overwhelmed. She has so much stuff to do. She needs to make cookies. She needs to work on helping her sister. She needs to make an outline for book club, just a bunch of things. And he was like, look, we can put the audiobook while I make the cookies for you, and yada yada yada. Well, she was like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. And he goes to an app. Real quick, she realizes that no, that's not the audiobook. That is an app that she uses for intimate reasons. And I was over here cackling. Well, fast forward, and he's spending the night, and he's actually like sleeping in her bed with her. And he takes his shirt off and he takes his pants and he's just in boxers. And she's like, okay. And well, then he touches her and he starts recording it, audio recording, for her to have. So she doesn't use the app, she uses their recording. And she's like, do you want me to send it to you? Like, and he's like, no. But this is after he finds out that her ex-boyfriend has not made her finish. And it is hilarious because he's like, obviously, like, have you seen him? Like, it's so funny. And he's like there to prove a point, like, hey, he's a douche, you can do it. Like, yeah. So then we fast forward, they go to multiple parties together. He's like touching her, hugging her, like just being very affectionate. And all of their friends are like, are y'all dating? And they're like, no. And the friend's like, okay, whatever. Before Thanksgiving, her sister decides to take a trip from Phoenix, Arizona to San Diego, which was where her ex-boyfriend lives, with a friend that was driving. And Hallie has to go all the way down to San Diego to get her sister. Her ex-boyfriend was like, hey, like, I think you should go home for Thanksgiving. She's like, what are you talking about? We agreed that I wasn't. And he's like, well, maybe you should. And she like blows up on him because she already, you know, agreed to extra work and all yada yada yada. And then Thanksgiving comes around and she does not go back home. And her family is like really bummed about it, trying to get her to come home. And she like says like, hey, like, I'm working doubles, like, I'm working a lot. Hallie decides not to go home for Christmas as well, and she just works. And Henry goes home to see his parents and, you know, have a Christmas break and stuff, and like spends time with her as well. And they are developing their relationship more and more. Hallie is sick and she does not want to go to a doctor. She's been sick for a month, doesn't want to go to a doctor. And then Henry is like worried sick, having anxiety and panicking because she is so sick. And he decides to take her somewhere. And like she gets ready, like, but she's like didn't brush her hair, like not fixed up. And she falls asleep in the car. And when she wakes up, turns out he takes her to his parents' house because his mom is a doctor. And she's like really mad because she's like not presentable. And she like tells him like, hey, like, this does not count as me meeting your parents because I look atrocious. And his mom is just the sweetest thing. And he has two moms, so there's mom and mama, and this is mama, and she's from Texas. Sweetest woman. And she like gets her some medicine and like helps her, gives her some soup, and like noodles on the side because that's what Henry did like when he was a kid, and it's so cute. And throughout this book, I feel like Henry is a little bit like, I don't know, maybe on the spectrum just a little bit. I think that's like hinting without like full on saying. Maybe. If you think so, please let me know. But that's just what I'm feeling. Like I get the vibes. Which if he is, like that's so awesome that they is represented in the book. During the holiday, Henry decides to take her on a date and they go for a drive. Turns out they go to a very nice, fancy hotel. And surprise, it's a double date with Aurora and Russ. And they are so cute. And this is around Christmas. And they have dinner and then go back to the hotel room and they're doing a gift exchange. And he gives her the sweetest gift, which is digitalizing her grandmother's recipe, like all her recipes. And that is like the most sweetest thing. Well, she gifts, or he gives her a couple more things, but she gifts him a box of lingerie. And he's like, this isn't my style. He opens it and it's empty. And then she decides to undress and she's wearing the lingerie. And she has finally decided that she is ready to have sex for the first time. And he is all for it, all for it. And that scene was so good. And then the game against her ex-boyfriend is coming soon. Henry goes feral. He's like all touching on her, like loving her, having sex, like just cannot stop touching her. And she is realizing it's because like her ex-boyfriend's going to be in town. And she's like, can we do something else that's not us having sex? Like, let's do something else. Well, like, she's like, draw for me or like paint for me. And he has like drawn for her like sketches of herself, of the cat, her cat, which her cat loves him, um, throughout the book. Well, he decides to take her upstairs to a room, and it's like a bed's not made, and she's like, okay, like, what are we doing up here? And he's like, well, I'm gonna paint. And he like puts down a canvas and has paint, and they bang on the canvas with the paint, and it is so steamy. And this, like, I was like kicking my feet reading this scene. Well, then she goes home because she's like, like, I'm just gonna go home, like, yada yada yada. And turns out her parents came home early, and like she hasn't like cleaned her house or nothing. Her parents turned up early with her ex-boyfriend's parents as well. And she enters the house, and it's her parents, her ex-boyfriend's parents, and of course her ex-boyfriend in her house. And she's like, no, cool that y'all here, but I'll be right back. And she runs to her room, her bathroom, because she has some stuff she gotta hide. And one of those is a box of condoms. And they're empty. And he texts Henry and was like, hey, did we finish that box of condoms? And he was like, no. But is this your invitation? And she's like, no, like, I have the box and it's empty. And this is where I'm really confused about this scene, because Will comes out and like, oh, like, I guess you're fucking him, right? But why is the box empty? They didn't explain why the box was empty. Like, they said like, hey, like, it's not empty, but the box was empty. So like, did Will steal their condoms? Like, I'm confused about that scene. Anyways, I digress. And he was like, I want you back, yada yada yada. Like, when he's done with you, I'll be here for you. Like, you'll come running back. And she blows up on him. She's like, basically, like, fuck you. I didn't love you. You didn't make me feel this way. You were rude. You were an asshole. Yada, yada, yada. And he's like, fuck. Right? And he leaves, and his parents leave. And she, like, tells her parents, like, hey, I'm just gonna go to bed. Well, then game day comes, and Henry is going back to the locker room because he's about to go in and go play. And Will, Hallie's ex-boyfriend, is in the hallway. And they exchange some words. And Henry is like, I'm not going to fight him because Hallie does not like fighting. Well, Will says a bunch of rude and nasty things. And Henry's teammates stick up for her because that's her friends too. And they start fighting Will. And Henry, trying to get out of the way, gets elbowed in the face. Well, the coach sees them, breaks them all up, and the coach is basically yelling at Henry. Basically tells them, like, hey, like, if you can't, like, follow the rules, like, and you're fighting, that's not good leadership. And if you're gonna act like this, you don't deserve to be a leader. And Henry feels this relief because he has so much anxiety being a leader. Like, he cannot manage all of it. Well, he leads. He's not even going to try to play. And Hallie is in the stands and realizing that everybody else but Will and Henry is coming out. So she's like frantically going to search for him. And her mom is like trailing her, like following her. And telling her, like, hey, like, stop, like, they're fine, like, yada yada, will this. And she's like, stop, like, I don't want to be with Will. Will was like this, y'all treat me like this. And she blows up on her mom. And then Henry comes out and they leave the arena, and he tells her, like, everything that happened, and he won't tell her what Will said at first. And she's like, you gotta tell me, yada yada. And well, he tells her. Well, then they bang in his living room. And then he, like, turns inward, and she's like, I'm just gonna leave. And he was like, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go. I have to process. I have to think. And then basically they break up without ever being together, or take a break. And he goes to his parents' house, and she stays home. And they agreed that she's not gonna expect updates just for him to get better. Then weeks pass, and she's like depressed, and her friends rally, come over, and have like a movie night and like hang out with her and stuff to make her feel like we're your friends, like, you come first, like, sure, we were Henry's friends, but we're your friends, right? And then Henry comes back home because his parents like, hey, like, you feel sorry for yourself, like, get over it, leave, right? And then he, like, goes to dinner, like, his old captain comes, has a talk with him. Then they go talk to his coach and tells him, like, hey, like, I don't want to be a captain, like, it's too much stress and anxiety for me. And his coach was like, I wish you would have told us sooner, it would have saved us some trouble. And then he has to just make up his work for school and stuff like that, and then make up a lot to practice to be able to play again. Well, then we go to Hallie's POV, and she sees that he's home. He finds out that Hallie is finishing her book so she can turn it in, and he asks Russ for the copy of her book. And he was like, Aurora's gonna kill me if I give it to you. And she finds out. And he was like, should be fine. Spring break comes around, and she's supposed to be going on a trip with her family, Will's family, and Will. And she's going to the airport. where she's about to leave for the airport, and Henry shows up like, hey, like, I'm better, like, I know you're gonna leave, so like we can talk about it when we get back, but here, I'm gonna give you this. You're gonna get an email. Don't open it until you're there or you get back or something. Well, she's at the airport, she gets the email, and she opens it, and it's like audio, and she's like, oh Lord, what is this? And she starts listening, and it's him narrating her book. She opens the envelope that he gives her, and it's her book, but illustrated. So it's just her book and drawings that he did for her, and that is his act of love. And he basically said, like, I broke rule number 4 as well, and rule number 4 was don't fall in love with each other. And so he basically said that he loves her. And then she shows up to his house, and she doesn't go on the trip. And he was like, oh, like, you're staying, yada, yada, yada. And she's like, technically, no. I'm going on a girls' trip with Aurora to Europe for a Formula One race. But I love you too. And he asks her to be his girlfriend. And the book ends there. There's an epilogue. And they have their little happily ever after. So, if you loved my recap of Daydream, I want to hear what you thought of it. I loved it, obviously. I loved her finding her friends. I love seeing Henry struggle with like anxiety and like being overwhelmed. I love Hallie having to be like the family manager, and that gives her anxiety. I love everything about this book. I love their slow burn. Overall, I think it was a good book. I love the representation of Henry having 2 moms. I just love this book. And it was such a good time. And I love how she's a writer and a reader. And I had myself cackling at some points of this book. So that wraps up Daydream by Hannah Grace. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up on YouTube or give it a 5-star on podcast. Sabeena will be doing a book review on one book that she read. So that will be posted after this one. If you want to follow us on socials, you can follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Shadow Crown Book Club. And if you want to follow us on TikTok, TikTok might be banned in the United States soon, but in the meantime, you can still follow us there. It's Shadow Crown Book Club as well. If you want to go follow us, that would be amazing. We are pretty funny. I think so. So we are going to be covering Crown of Gilded Bones by JLA, which will be a 2 to 3 part video. So if you want to check those videos out, please stay tuned. If you are on YouTube, turn on your post notifications so you can get notified every time we upload. Until next time, bye.
STUVWXYNZ. Now we know our ABCs.
Next time, won't you sing with me?
Welcome to, fuck, what are we called?
We're gonna have to redo that.
Yeah, let's